Bloomberg Audio Studios.
Podcasts, radio, news.
The private investment firm Vistria Group is expanding its roster of advisors to promote equity for underrepresented startup founders. And they're tapping a pretty big name to do it. Deval Patrick, the former governor of Massachusetts, recently joined the group as a senior advisor. That's in addition to his job as serving as a co-director of the Harvard Kennedy School Center for Public Leadership. Pleased to say the former governor joins us right now here on the big program. And Deval, I do want to start with your new job, your job in the investment world, if you will, because of course that's what we're most interested in. And I think everybody really wants to know, why did you pick Vistria?
Well, I think Vistria Group is the future of capitalism, right? It's about long-term value, meaning in this case, investing in industries that we know are essential for the well-being of people: healthcare, knowledge and learning, financial services, credit and access to credit, and affordable and workforce housing, the kinds of things that are foundational for people to have real opportunity. And doing that in a way that's both about driving superior financial returns and measurable social benefit is where I think capitalism has to go to, as a system, be sustainable, and really to sustain this idea that opportunity for everybody is central to the American experiment.
And that gets to the whole idea of what we've been talking about over the last few years, a more conscious form of capitalism. But as I'm sure you've also seen a very conscious pushback to a lot of that, whether it's basically what you just described or some of the ESG measures out there here. How does that fold in? Because I don't want to say the moment has passed, but you're definitely looking at a situation where investors are looking at that type of space much differently than they did just a couple of years ago.
Well, I think, frankly, some of that pushback is background noise. It's always been there. It comes, I think, from folks who are feeling like they just don't want to have to do much more than figure out how to squeeze every penny out of every dollar. I think that notion of getting a superior return versus a social benefit has been a false choice all along. And I'll tell you some of the reasons why, Romaine. You know, nowadays, you mess up in a company, you pollute the neighborhood or something like that. Social media is such that everybody knows. It will hurt and affect your bottom line. Why not be more proactive about it? Why not be more self-conscious and self-aware about the impact of the business you do? You pay people less than it takes to actually live and sustain themselves and their families. That word gets around, and it does affect a business's bottom line. So the better and more forward-looking entrepreneurs and business leaders and executives are thinking about all of their shareholders and their stakeholders and how to optimize for all of them and making quite a great return as they do. Those are the companies where we at Vistria want to be their capital partners.
Yeah, you're saying there's no reason to choose between financial return or social benefit, but to seek financial return as well as social benefit. How do you go about measuring social benefit? Based on the folks that you've spoken with, the startup founders that you're in contact with, what is the most appropriate and effective way of doing that?
Well, I think first of all, it's really important to be transparent about that with the individual company up front, right? So we're in conversations as we get into deals with founders, with the executive team, about what their own objectives have been, what ours are, how do we align those in terms of compensation, in terms of measurements of environmental impact, what they use, what they acquire, whom they use to sustain their own business in terms of subcontractors and what have you, where they are doing business, what is the wage they are paying to their employees, and the benefits, and how can we think about enhancing those in ways so that we reduce the cost of turnover, for example, right? One of those trades, and we enhance the sort of inherent value and respect of a company, particularly one that has a consumer-facing nature, so that its overall financial value also grows.
So, Deval, you had said that Vistria invests in healthcare, knowledge and learning solutions, financial services, housing. That's a pretty broad swath of the economy. Of those, what is your priority? What are you focused on? What do you think is most urgent?
You know, it's a fair question. I love it all because, in fact, in real life, as you know, Scarlet, all of these things intersect in individual families, right? They all have to work for individual families to have a platform to lift themselves and for their own ambitions to take flight. We have at Vistria $11 billion under management right now between those different funds and initiatives. We continue to grow. We continue to. My own work will be helping to fundraise, to source deals, to coach the teams, to help them close deals and so forth. And because so much of what we do embraces public policy,
right.
I think there's some from my own background that I can bring to bear to help there as well.
Well, speaking of public policy, Deval, I mean, we're all focused right now on the potential for a government shutdown. We did learn earlier today that lawmakers have reached some type of deal. This is a deal that pretty much would just keep things going for maybe about 3 more weeks rather than actually solve our budget problems here. Do you think we're going to ever get to a point where we see a little bit more continuity in the budget process and a budget process on the timetable that the Constitution mandates? Wow.
What a profoundly important question. First of all, you're right. It sounds like what we have is a kick-the-can solution. That's better than a crisis, but it's not really good enough, not for a mature and serious democracy as America is meant to be. Mm-hmm. And it seems to me that one thing that has not happened is that there haven't been political consequences for the obstructionists who keep us from negotiating a sustained and long-term budget for our government. And I wish there were. I think that has to be a part of the political activity and conversation as we go into the next election cycle.
Do you miss government at all?
There are days when I miss it, but listen, we need good government, right? I have worked in the private sector, the public sector, not-for-profit and for-profit. We need all of these sectors to be pulling in the same direction, and it's back to this idea about opportunity and how do we make that real in every corner of the country for everybody.
All right, Deval, appreciate you taking the time, and I'll just say on behalf of myself, a kid who grew up on the south side of Chicago, to watch your trajectory from the Robert Taylor homes to where you are today, always inspiring, no matter what your bent is. Deval Patrick over now at the Vistria Group, former governor of Massachusetts.